Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the new and very much improved housing Piledriver Pundit, episode number 1, The Phantom Pundit. See, hey, I can make fun of myself. Hey, if you can't make fun of yourself, what else can you do? I digress. What you have just witnessed is the brand new intro for this here show, featuring the intro created by Mr. Robert Davis. Did that awesome theme song. That intro video was done by the captain, the creator of the Max Wrestling Podcast, Mr. Dazzy Lee. I want to thank both men immensely for being part of this show and helping me out. Brothers, I appreciate both of you beyond measure. So I've taken some time. I have recorded this numerous times. Wanted to get it right. I plan to do at least 1 to 2 episodes per week. Sometimes I'm going to have the subject. Other times I'm just going to ramble. What I usually do for those of you that know me. So, a lot's been happening. Recently we had the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, PLE, whatever you want to call it. But first and foremost, to me, the biggest thing that we got out of that was the debut of the very nice, very evil Danhausen. Now, there are some boos, which is a little weird, but hey. I think the issue with that, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think a lot of fans had themselves worked up that it was going to be something else. I've heard people say, "Oh, well, maybe it's going to be Chris Jericho. Maybe it's going to be this person. Maybe it's going to be that person." They never said it was. They never said it was going to be anybody. I've said it to numerous people that I was fairly certain it was going to be Danhausen. Especially when it came out that Chris Jericho had his contract frozen. Now, whether that remains to be seen or not, or whether that's true or not, I don't know. Plus, I don't really see Chris showing up at Elimination Chamber. When he didn't show up at Royal Rumble, I kind of thought, yes, probably not happening at this point. I don't know if the whole contract frozen thing is true. Because honestly, people, half the time you can't trust these IWC dirt sheets. You can't. I'm myself am a victim of that. Where I see a story and I think, hey, is this true? Is this? I would say grain of salt. Do I think eventually he is going to show up at WWE? Yeah, I think it makes sense. Really, not much of anything left for him to do in AEW. Been a world champion. I guess you could do TNT title or one of the other secondary titles, but why? Doesn't make much sense. But hey, I digress. Now, back to the evil one. I thought it was cool. I thought the box was kind of a cool idea. I enjoyed it, and it's especially when you follow the social media bit where you see that his wife did the choreography and was even one of the little demon devil things. I don't know, but it was entertaining. And it's, I don't know what happened to the days of just being entertained with wrestling. It's just, I think it's natural in society to where we like to think of, oh, hey, everything's got to have meaning. Everything's got to But a little nuggets of truth in everything. Don't need it to be. We don't need that. I mean, it's all well and good, but hey, it's not needed. We got him as I'm recording this. We had him do an appearance on Monday Night Raw, which honestly, literally is the only reason why I'm tuning into Raw tonight, was to see Danhausen. He gave Adam Pearce a list of demands, not all of which included a blimp. He wanted a finger point picture with Triple H. He wanted a Hall of Fame induction this year, which typical, like, off the wall stuff. And then, of course, he hands the paper to not all this, Adam Pearce. Pearce says, "Why is this all wet?" Danhausen just says, "Well, it fell in the toilet." And we get the Judgment Day come up, and Pearce kind of is like, "Hey, here, you talk to him." And he tries to get the IC title from Dom. He's like, "Hey, well, I want that." And we get he insults Danhausen, and Danhausen curses Dom. So something's got to happen here, like maybe Dom loses it. I don't know. That match is happening now. I think that's maybe the main event. I don't know. But I'm entertained. On to the issue with Mania this year. And folks, I know I'm not alone in this. I remember being younger, and WrestleMania season always was exciting. You had the build up, a lot matches felt special. Now, thinking of the matches, we've got Roman versus Punk, which we're probably going to get Becky versus AJ again. Which, as an aside, I don't understand why we're all that shocked, because, hey, they beat the Punk versus Rollins thing to death. Why shouldn't this be any different? I don't get it. I don't get it one little bit. But whatever. It's you do you. Simple as that. We've got, at least right now, Drew versus Randy. But we know we're looking at a multi-man title match. Realistically, it's probably going to be Drew versus Randy versus Cody versus Jacob. Personally, I would love to see Jacob Fatu take it. I think there is something about him that is just special. You want somebody that can lead the company that has, mass appeal. It's him. He's someone that he has a past, but, you can use it. You can just say, hey, here's someone that had a rough start, but turned things around. So, and he's just got that charisma, and God, I want to see him succeed. I would love to see one of the nights of WrestleMania. Probably going to be night 1, if I were to guess. I would love to see whatever night it is, but as I said, it's probably going to be night 1. Go off air with with Jacob Fatu holding the WWE title. We'll probably get Cody again, but it's what we're going to get. looking at it now, Cody moves a ton of merchandise. But speaking of merchandise housing, the top seller, at least as of right now, is Danhausen. The one shirt he has is the top seller on WWEshop.com housing. Hey, I can add housing and everything. It works. It's looking at it here. And I know some people will say, hey, you're only ranting on WWE. It's because AEW's been stepping it up. Putting the title on MJF worked. And I've heard people say, oh, he should go to WWE. You should do this. First of all, I won't rule out that he's going to go there eventually at some point. I'm not saying he is, but I'm not saying he isn't. I wouldn't be shocked if he does. But if he doesn't, oh well. I think he's doing fine just as is in AEW. Hangman's runs with the title, and I like Hangman Page. I do. I think he's got a ton of talent here. But the issue is just how he's booked. I think, and if people think I'm wrong, call me out here. I think traditionally, at least so far in history, the one area where Tony has kind of struggled a little bit is how face champions are booked. People say, well, MJF, da-da-da-da. Meaning his first run. With that was different. He wasn't an outright babyface. He wasn't your white meat, shake hands, kiss the babies, all that. That wasn't him. He'd be the type that'd walk up to a kid, give him the finger, and go about his business. That's just what his character. But it's just been an issue. Punk, his reigns were just, yeah, we're not gonna reopen that old wound now, are we, people? No. Looking at it, I think Punk was testing the waters, to see if WWE would take him back. Clearly they did. And it was best for both parties to move on. It's done. I really kind of would hope fans can now move forward. He's better off without them. They're better off without him. The chief issue that I have with AEW, and I'm a big Tommaso Ciampa fan. I was excited to see him go there. And you put the TNT title on him, awesome, great, cool. I liked that. 11 days. 11 days. You put that title on Kyle Fletcher for a second time, and I like him too. Why are you not transitioning Kyle Fletcher to the TNT, or not to the TNT title? He already has that, to the AEW World title? Fletcher is somebody that has it. And people say, well, Ospreay has it too. Ospreay's had a series of injuries, and I'm not saying he's nearing retirement, but much like Rollins in WWE, you need to start preparing for a future without them there. it was the problem that WWE ran into, and it still honestly kind of has. When your big stars go down, who do you have? When you think early 2000s, like 2003-ish, Austin was gone, Rock was gone, Mick Foley was gone. So, and I'm sorry, I like Triple H, but he was never the guy. And you went a long time without huge bankable stars. I mean, that's not to say you didn't have talent, because God knows you did. You had a ton of talent. Vince didn't want to push him. You had Eddie Guerrero, which, had a good run, but could have been so much fucking better. You had Booker T, who, had the King Booker gimmick a couple years later, but at the same time, like WrestleMania 19, he should have gone over against Triple H. He should have. I don't care what anybody says. It should have been him. Not trying to quote Dave Bautista there, but hey, we had that one guy. We had Chris Benoit, who at the time, and this, I'm not going to address what he did. We all know what he did. It's talked about ad nauseum by other podcasters. It's everywhere. I'm not talking about. I'm talking specifically the period to where he was the World Heavyweight Champion post WrestleMania 20, heading into SummerSlam. So that was 3, almost 4 months. Who did he really feud with? Triple H a whole mess of times. And Triple H had to be in the title picture. And when he wasn't, he was the head of the show, and it was almost like the world title was an afterthought. That's it. And as much as you want to blame him, you gotta blame Vince for that, because at the time it was Vince's company. Then we got Cena and Batista. Got a little bit better, but we got Cena over and over and over again. And Cena has now said, in retrospect, that there were booking decisions that should have been different. I think he specifically had mentioned the SummerSlam 2012, which was, I think, the Team Cena versus Team Nexus. He wanted to. He and Vince wanted to go over, which stupid decision. Which that should have been Nexus all the way. And then we went through even up to 2014 and up with the Shield. We got them running a rough shot. We got Rome. We had, I believe it was 2014. Maybe I'm wrong, but that was the year when everyone thought Brian Danielson was going to win the Royal Rumble. He got eliminated by Batista. I think it came down to Roman Reigns and Batista that year. Everyone started cheering for Roman. People loved Roman. He had the look of a superstar. Still does. Then sees him and says, oh my God, that's it. He's my guy. And yeah, pushed him to the moon. Shoved him down our throats. And Triple H is doing the same thing now. The problem now is you have so much talent that they're just wasting. You have LA Knight. Yeah. You have Dominic Mysterio, which I will say it, dude is a star. I think he can get over as a face as well. You have Finn Balor. You have Oba Femi. You have so many people on Raw. SmackDown, you have Ilya Dragunov. You have Jacob Fatu. You had the Wyatt Six, which I still say you could, if you worked on Uncle Howdy, aka Bo Dallas, be a serious title contender. I don't know if you want to make him champion, but he could. You've got options there, and I don't. He's falling prey to the same mistakes. You had Killer Cross, who was so well over with the crowd. The crowds were loving him. That was your star. But as is the case with WWE, they don't like it when stars get over for themselves. Look at Matt Cardona, aka Zack Ryder. He got himself over. Vince didn't like that. It's the same thing. Cross got himself over. Vince, Triple H didn't like that. And so that has led to this whole notion of bring Vince back. Now, maybe this is me being a conspiracy theorist, but I'm not convinced Vince ever really fully left. This will tie in to the episode title, "The Phantom Pundit," and I've made the comment on the RWT podcast, Cheap Pop #1. Yes, Michael, I'm stealing the cheap pop from my show today. What of it? I've said it on the TSK podcast, Cheap Pop #2. I've said it previously on the Pundit. I've said it on the Max Wrestling podcast, Cheap Pop #4. I have referred to him as Vince McPalpatine. As with Emperor Palpatine in Star Wars, he just keeps coming back and back and back. I don't think Vince ever fully left. I think he still got his hand in the cookie jar somewhere. But I digress. Also this week, coming up this Friday, we have the early release of WWE 2K26. That is for people that ordered any edition other than the standard edition. That is the deluxe edition, the King of Kings edition, and the Monday Night War edition. A lot of features are involved in this on new matches. We finally got thumbtacks. So Hell in a Cell, Mick Foley versus Undertaker. Double stacking tables, setting tables on fire, and double stacking them. Interesting. The biggest controversy is what's going on with the DLC. They switched to a season pass kind of thing where it's supposed to be spread out through the years, 5 battle passes. I'm not sure how it's breaking down. I think it's like every 2-ish months. The last one is supposed to release sometime like December or January, right around, Christmas, right as they're gearing up to go into 2K27. Now, it's going to be a mix of tiers, both paid tiers or premium and free tiers. From what I've heard, the free tiers are going to be more like things that would be in the standard game, like titles, legends, arenas, things of that sort. The premium are going to be like DLC. The first tier or the first season pass, which is set to come out Friday with early release, is AAA censored or centered. I believe Lady Flamer, Psycho Clown, El Hijo del Vikingo, and I think maybe one more. Oh, Mr. Iguana. I believe he's the last. And it's supposed to be spread out, but it's not going to be like you buy the pass and you immediately get all the content. You have to play matches and you get, like, I think they call it RXP. and it's supposed to be spread out. Like if you do just exhibition mode, you get that. If you do universe mode, you get RXP, and it's supposed to be spread out. So it's giving you an incentive to play the game. Because people, I'll be honest here, I got to a point with 2K25 where I just got sick of it. Like I'd play a match 2 here or there, and I was just thinking, really? Like this is it? Like I'm bored. I'd play a match, turn it off, come back a day later, 2 days later, what have you, play again, make 2 or 3 matches, and it's just like, You know, I did my Rise 2 or 3 times. I did the universe mode a few times. That was all well and good. The showcase was like once, and then that was it. But looking at it, people are shitting all over this, but give it a chance. You know, we don't like new things as wrestling fans, but I'm going to be positive about it. The standard edition will come out on the 10th, so a week from tomorrow at the time of this recording. I will be recording a second episode. Maybe I'll call it Piledriver Pundit episode 2, Attack the DLC. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to call it, but I'm going to call it something. I'll be giving you my first impressions. Do I think you need the game? Can you skip it for a bit? Keep an eye out for that. So that brings me to my closing point, folks. Thank you for sticking with me. I promise I am going to be doing more episodes with consistency. I want to thank Dazzy Lee for the video intro. I want to thank Robert Davis again for the theme song. Stay tuned to what I'm putting out. Again, you can find me on the RWT podcast, Kicking It with the TSK, occasionally on Max Wrestling. Big Mo coming for you. You know, we got some stuff cooking there. They have Promo Mania coming up next month, I do believe. They have some exciting stuff. You can check me out with Kicking It with the TSK. We'll have a show coming soon. Stay tuned for that. The RWT podcast, we will have another show coming out end of week. Mr. Michael Larkin and I will be having another episode of Uncaged coming as well. We do have a episode we haven't recorded yet, but it's coming on Bill Goldberg. So stay tuned. Thanks for being part of the Pundit. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll catch you all next time.